Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, I'm Jill Valley.
And I'm Dennis Bragg. We have another winter storm headed our way this evening that's capable of laying down some heavy snow in western Montana and Idaho.
Yeah, and the storm is expected to impact most of western Montana, so let's get to it. Meteorologist Russ Thomas joins us now from the Storm Tracker Weather Center with a more in-depth look at what's ahead. Russ.
Right, we have to look back no farther than Sunday to see the same type of weather system. A little different scenario in the fact that it's coming from a different direction, but in terms of what the snow very well could produce, well, that's what we're talking about, the same thing. The other thing you see is winter weather advisory across the entire area with one exception, which we'll get to in just one second. But for those valleys, Flathead, Mission, Missoula, and Bitter Valley, we're seeing the opportunity, in fact, likely to at least get 2 inches, if not up to 6 inches. The one thing that's different about this storm as opposed to the last one is that on Sunday, northwest Montana missed out on a lot of the snow the rest of the area got. In this system, I think the Flathead Valley, Mission Valley are on target to receive the most snowfall. So we're looking at those areas potentially 4, 5, 6 inches. Of course, passes and above are going to get 6 inches to a foot. Now let's get to that other area. We have a winter storm warning for the lower Clarkville region. Lookout Pass, Lolo Pass, part of this, 7 to 12 inches. Now what makes it a warning is gusty winds as well, starting this evening, going through tomorrow morning. We'll have more coming up in just a few minutes.
The YMCA daycare worker accused of smoking meth while inside the building today pled guilty to 3 different felonies. KPAX's Connor McCauley is in the studio with more on what happened in court. Connor.
Thanks, Jill and Dennis. In April, a co-worker of 30-year-old Autumn Sienna Hines reported to police that she had found Hines in a cabinet with what she believed to be meth. Missoula police were then called to the YMCA daycare and found meth and meth paraphernalia in what court documents describe as a drug den inside the daycare center. The daycare building was then tested for meth residue, and those tests came back positive in all areas of the building. Hines had attempted to conceal smoking meth in the building by blowing it in the vent fans, which instead spread the residue all over the building. The building had to be gutted, according to Missoula Deputy County Attorney James McCubbin, who also estimated the restitution cost in the $100,000 range. Hines says that she knew what she was doing put children in danger.
Now, as I recall, you had some kind of a cubby hole under a counter or something?
Yes.
And are you aware that methamphetamine fumes can be very harmful to people, including children?
Yes, sir.
You chose to do this anyway,
Yes, sir.
knowing the risk to them?
Yes, sir.
Hines had an open plea, which means there was no agreement between her lawyer and the state when she made the change. Her sentencing is scheduled for February 26th. Back to you.
Thank you, Connor. New statistics are showing Kalispell is the safest town in Montana. This according to FBI's Uniform Crime Report statistics. Kalispell selected from a total of over 7,000 cities that were rated. Last year, Kalispell had only 72 violent crimes. That breaks down to about 3 per every 1,000 people. The FBI classifies those crimes as murder, manslaughter, rape, robbery, and/or aggravated assault. Compare that to Billings, which had about 550 violent crimes reported per 1,000. Bozeman, Helena, Great Falls, Missoula, and Billings followed Kalispell on that list. There are only 7 in the world, and Two Bear Air Search and Rescue has one of them. As KPAX's Marin Sue reports, this rare piece of equipment could save your life.
You see that bright red circular device? That's a Reco, and it could save your life. Only 7 have ever been made, and one of them is right here in the Flathead Valley with Two Bear Air Search and Rescue. Jim Pierce, pilot with Two Bear Air, tells me what exactly this device does.
The Reco is a passive reflector system that they put in clothing, on items of gear, things like that, that doesn't require a battery or any power on the person. So the Reco detector, when we use that, we have the opportunity to find people which are buried, lost.
Working similarly to an avalanche beacon, once lowered, this device will transmit a series of beeps to the crew in the helicopter. The Reco is so accurate, it gets rescue teams within feet of the person needing assistance. When seconds matter between life and death, Chuck Curry with Two Bear Air tells me how important this device is for search and rescue.
We've spent a lot of time on searches looking for people, not always successfully. This is just one more tool in our toolkit to be able to rapidly find people who are lost, who are buried.
Pierce and Curry suggest that you look into your gear for reco tags. Jackets like this one of any age could determine whether your life could be saved by reco technology.
The reco is so rare, it's not even for sale. Two Bear Air was lucky enough to receive this detector on loan from reco. In Kalispell, Marin Sue, MTN News.
Now, Pierce and Curry's advice is before you head out to the mountain, check over your gear and see if you have those tags, and let your loved ones know if you do. That will help search and rescue teams if they need to locate you out there.
Neither President Trump nor Democrats in Congress appear any closer to a compromise that would end this 32-day-old partial government shutdown. Senate Republicans will introduce a bill to end the shutdown that incorporates President Trump's offer to break the logjam.
The proposal outlined by President Trump that we'll consider here in the Senate is the only proposal, the only one currently before us that can be signed by the president and immediately reopen the government.
The president's plan includes 3 years protection for some refugees and so-called dreamers. It also includes $5.7 billion for a border wall. Democrats are demanding the president reopen the government before negotiations on border security can begin.
First, President Trump said, "Give me the wall or I'll shut down the government." Then President Trump said, "Unless you give me the wall, I'll keep the government shut down."
The House is expected to vote this week on a package of spending bills to reopen most of the government and provide $1 billion in border security funding, but not the wall. The Senate says it will not vote on that plan because the president says he will not sign it.
However, Senator Jon Tester believes there are votes there to reopen the government. He was in Helena today to address the Montana legislature.
He also talked to us about the prospects of reopening the federal government, or not. KPAX's Mike Dennison has more.
Democratic U.S. Senator Jon Tester and his GOP counterpart, Steve Daines, started the day Tuesday in Helena at a 4-H student seminar. But by Tuesday afternoon, Senator Tester was at the state capitol, where he talked both local and national politics. In an interview with MTN News, Tester said GOP leaders in the Senate should allow another vote on the bill that passed last year to keep the government open while negotiations on border wall funding continue.
Look, the government could be open tomorrow if the bills we passed at the end of last year would be brought to the floor. They would pass, and I think they'd pass with a large enough margin that would override a veto if the president decided to veto them.
He also noted that the U.S. Senate has approved border wall funding, but that President Trump keeps asking for more.
Unfortunately, when the $1.6 billion came out, which was his request, then he came back and said, no, we want $5 billion. And then he said, I want $5.7 billion. So that's what I mean about the goalposts continue to move.
Tester also delivered his biennial address to the Montana House and zeroed in on perhaps the biggest issue before state lawmakers, Medicaid expansion. The Republican-controlled legislature will decide whether to extend Montana's Medicaid expansion program, which funds health coverage for 95,000 low-income adults. Tester urged lawmakers to keep the program and told of a Butte man who said Medicaid allowed him to get care to control his diabetes and mental health problems.
And he said, and then, for the first time in my adult life, I've been able to get a job and hold a job and support my family. That's what I mean when we talk about people instead of politics.
Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Senator Tester returning to Washington tomorrow for a scheduled vote on the latest budget and border security proposal from President Trump.
Senator Steve Daines also in Helena today, speaking with teenagers at the 4-H Citizenship Seminar. During his remarks, Daines briefly remarked on the government shutdown, saying, quote, I happen to be back in Montana today. Hopefully I'll be flying back Thursday to have a vote to start moving forward to stop the nonsense of this shutdown. Daines has previously stated that he agrees with President Trump that there is a crisis at the southern border and has had his pay withheld until the government reopens.
Just ahead after this quick break on KPAX, we take a look at the impact outdoor gear has had on Montana the last 75 years with a new exhibit about to open in Missoula.
And Russ Thomas tracking this winter storm that is expected to bring a lot of snow to the mountains and the valleys. His in-depth storm tracker forecast in just a few minutes here on KPAX.
You're watching MTN News with Jill Valley and Dennis Bragg. Storm Tracker weather with Aaron Yost. And sports with Derek Berkeley. This is the 5:30 News on KPAX, Montana's news leader. Powered by the Montana Television Network. The 5:30 News continues on KPAX, Montana's news leader.
If you've lived in the Northwest any time at all, it's likely you have a backpack or two, maybe some treasured hiking boots, sleeping bags, or cross-country skis in storage.
I'm guilty of all that, but what you probably don't realize is how all that gear is a growing part of our legacy and the centerpiece of a new exhibit at Fort Missoula, taking the history and the memories out of the attic. When Rachel Gross grew up in Southern California, she was convinced the best way to fulfill her outdoor ambitions was to buy the best gear to show expertise.
That wasn't always the case. I certainly, when I started backpacking many years ago, had people stop to ask me, why is your pack so big? Or why are you carrying that kind of stove? They had all sorts of questions for a young woman who was by herself on the trail, thinking that they knew much better.
Now her expertise is the gear. Her postdoctoral work at UM's Davidson Honors College is the history of outdoor gear, a forthcoming book, and fascinating new exhibit opening at the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula. While we spend billions on outdoor gear, it's a business building for decades.
People have been turning towards outdoor stores as a way of preparing for their wilderness adventures for more than a century.
The exhibit is total fascination for gearheads like me, from the brands like Kelty that set the standard for frame packs to amazing artifacts dating to the backpacking and climbing boom of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's a step into another era where down was even more expensive, and you may have to sew your own.
I don't think that gear has changed that much over the last 40 years. In fact, it's people who decide now that everything is so light we can carry more stuff, who keep pack weights at a pretty consistent rate.
Nowadays we have to have our fancy fleece and our GPS receivers before we venture into the outdoors. But the exhibit reminds us it's not really about the hardware. It's about the memories and the experiences we've had out on the trail. Students helping with the research are uncovering amazing stories.
And so she got to know somebody from the neighborhood, from the local university neighborhood, and also hear about how he used to carry an iron skillet, tin cans of food, or sometimes pack out a quarter of an elk on that very packboard.
One of Rachel's personal favorites is this rare Clutterworks prototype internal frame pack, designed by Dana Gleason in Bozeman in the 70s, and owned and used proudly by a Missoula woman.
She said that she thought it was useful because she could go skiing because it didn't have an external frame pack. You can still smell a lot of the adventure on the material of that pack if you get close enough. So this is a history of outdoor gear. It's about stuff, but it wouldn't be interesting if we didn't have personal stories to attach to it. So I'm less interested in any particular Whisper Light stove from 30 years ago, and I'm way more interested in hearing how does that tell a story about your family's past and their leisure activities that you've pursued together.
The 75 Years of Outdoor Recreation exhibit will have a grand opening at Fort Missoula Friday evening from 6 to 8, and it'll be on display into April.
This week's winner of a One Class at a Time grant sponsored by Republic Services and KPAX TV is Jefferson School preschool teacher Julia Hall. KPAX TV General Manager Bob Hermes awarded Hall a $250 check. She's going to use that to buy items for the play center, including dress-up clothes and tools to help develop fine motor skills. Julia says her play area is in need of a little sprucing up, so this grant will allow her to meet the needs of her young students in several areas.
The house area, because that pretend play is so great for encouraging communication and language development, and we're also hoping to buy some new toys and games that target fine motor skills.
If you're a teacher or school administrator and you'd like to apply for a One Class at a Time grant, just go to our website, kpax.com.
Coming up, several inches of snow expected in this next winter storm pushing in tonight. Russ is back with the extended forecast next here on KPAX.
I just caught up with the shoveling, and now you're saying that there's more snow to deal with.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am saying that, but you know, I mean, it is the time of year. It seems like you never.
I'm just lazy, you know?
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah, I am too. But with that in mind, yeah, it does look like just about all of western Montana has that opportunity, not just for snow, but for measurable snow as we head into tonight, tomorrow as well. And of course, that means getting those shovels out. Here's what we've got for you. St. Patrick Hospital ICAM. We're looking at our time-lapse video. Generally speaking, a pretty great day. We get a little sunshine in there in a few spots, but by and large, once again, a lot of cloud cover. Temperature in Missoula, 27 degrees. Wind is pretty light out there right now. First Security Bank ICAM, Bitterroot Valley, same thing. Cloudy day. Here's what we're tracking. We've got a winter weather advisory, which we'll talk about in just one second. We also have a winter storm warning in one spot, which we'll talk about. Snowy for your Wednesday. I think later this week, still hanging on to a couple snow showers, but I think by and large, once we get past your Wednesday, we're going to start to dry out. So here's what we've got for you. Winter weather advisory starts at 8 p.m. this evening, goes all the way through tomorrow evening. I think what's going to happen is In terms of who's going to see the most snow, right now I think the target is on the Mission Valley, Flathead Valley, specifically Polson up through about Kalispell. So when we look at these numbers of say 2 to 6 inches, I think that's the area that's most likely to be on the high end of those numbers. Also, this is the area that's going to see the snowfall the earliest. Unlike the system which moved through on Sunday, which is more of a south to north, this one is north to south. And last system, northwest Montana, didn't get as much snow, so I think you're maybe bigger winners this time around. Missoula Valley, Bitterroot Valley, it's going to start up, or at least really get going, I think, tomorrow morning, maybe around that commute time, unfortunately, and go through the early afternoon. That's when I think we'll see the heaviest snow come down. And I think for the Missoula Bitterroot Valley, maybe closer to 2, 3 inches, maybe up to 4. But again, I think the progression, the farther south you go, the less overall snow we're going to see. Now we get a winter storm warning. This is for, generally speaking, the higher elevations. We're talking about Lolo Lookout Pass, 7 to 12 inches plus. Now, the reason why this is a warning is because it comes with the potential for very gusty winds as well, creating near whiteout conditions. So if you're traveling past level, please be aware and be careful. This also starts at 8 p.m., goes through 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. And even beyond that, I still think we lose the winds. We're still going to get snow beyond 11 a.m. in the lower Clarkville region. You look off to our west, there it is, all that snow and rain. It is moving now north central Idaho, knocking on our door. It's going to start moving in tonight. 30 Kalispell, 27 in Missoula currently, 28 Great Falls, 20 Jordan, 28 in Billings. By and large around the state, upper 20s, low 30s, pretty typical for this time of year. 30 in Polson currently, 27 in Missoula, 26 Sealy, 27 in Phillipsburg. Overnight lows tonight, we're not going to drop off a whole lot. The reason why cloud cover, and that's going to help inhibit those numbers dropping. And of course, we'll start to see that snow come down, especially northern areas as well. Future track, here we go. We're stopping right around 4:30 in the morning. Notice most of western Montana by that time getting the snow, but you notice the colors that are that deeper purple. That indicates where we're going to see the heavier snow at any given time. And again, Mission Valley, Flathead Valley. As we progress through the day, I think Missoula Valley, Bitterroot Valley starts to get more of that. I also think in the Bitterroot Valley, there may be enough rain mixed in with the snow to where it kind of knocks down those snow accumulations. Most area will see mostly snow with this system. High temperatures tomorrow, low 30s to mid 30s, good conditions for not only snow but kind of that wetter, heavier snow as well. 34 Kalispell tomorrow, 35 in Hamilton. Once we get to tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, it does look like the snow clears out. I think for Thursday, maybe a few snow showers in some of the higher elevations, but also we're going to get a little bit of sunshine. 32 on Thursday, 32 again on Friday, 30% chance of snow. The weekend's looking good. Partly cloudy, highs in the mid 30s, upper 20s and dry next Monday and Tuesday. Kalispell, snow tonight, snow through about early afternoon tomorrow. Then I think that snow starts to diminish. 32 Thursday, 36 Friday, the weekend looking good. Sunshine both Saturday, Sunday with highs in the mid 30s. Hamilton, snow tonight, snow rain mix tomorrow, 35, 35 Thursday, and look at 37 and 39 for the weekend.
All right, Russ, thank you. A Hellgate coach goes into the National Hall of Fame. We'll hear from him coming up.
And in the past week, he gave us so many great plays, it was tough to narrow it down to a top 5. Derek did. He has the outstanding game changers after the break here on KPAX.
Here's the latest market watch from KPAX. Time now for sports with Derek Berkeley.
A legendary career officially ended this past May, but it will not soon be forgotten. Hellgate's Ron Jones retired after 53 years in coaching. Now he's heading to the National High School Athletic Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Jones found out a couple weeks ago he'll be one of this year's inductees. He held the head coaching job at Hellgate in boys and girls track and field and boys and girls cross country for a combined 78 seasons of competition. He also served as an assistant in football and wrestling and recently wrapped up his final season as a track assistant coach. He went into the Montana Coaches Association Hall of Fame in 2004. Jones has a full trophy case, but he admitted this most recent honor felt extra special.
It was exciting because I've heard of a lot of people, you know, from Montana that have been in the national level, and just being able to come back and say, wow, I'm with these people. They've been in a long time. I've met other coaches around the nation, you know, that are national, and it's a big step up.
Jones thanks his family for giving him unending support throughout his years coaching, and he's thrilled his wife and sons will join him at the induction ceremony in Bismarck, North Dakota this coming June. High school basketball players really upped their game this week. We had too many great game changers to whittle it down to just 5, so we'll make a separate countdown for girls and boys. Ladies first, Florence at Loyola. Danielle Zahn with a great pick and roll pass to Joey Janetsky for 2 points there. We stay in the same game at number 4. End of the first quarter, Sydney Kopang letting it fly at the buzzer on the runner and hits it, but Florence would get that big win. Now to the best player in the state at number 3. Helena's Jamie Pickens gets the block on one end, then starts a fast break against rival Capital, and she ends it with the Euro step between 2 defenders as Helena stays unbeaten. Butte Central at the Frenchtown girls, the Bronx Claire Bagnell drives and draws contact and somehow gets this circus shot to fall in, but Butte Central would win by 1. Hellgate at the Sentinel girls for our top one end of the third quarter. The Hellgate forces the turnover. Lauren Dick racing up the court, banks it in just before the buzzer. The Knights make a huge second half comeback to beat rival Sentinel for the first time in 16 years. So we give Hellgate our top game changer. And we show you the guys' top 5 during the 10 o'clock news tonight. And remember, you can find our top highlights, stories, standings, and much more at montanasports.com. Download our free app to keep up to date on your favorite sports from all across Montana. We'll be back after this.
Look at our forecast again for the next 7 days. We've got 32 degrees, 100% chance of snow tomorrow. A little rain mixed in later in the day. Thursday, 32 again on Friday. Will be a little drier for the weekend. But again, we're talking about anywhere from 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. And I think the bigger thing here is northwest Montana, Mission Valley, maybe on the higher end of that. Missoula, Bitterroot Valley, I think more 2 to 3 inch range. Either way, it's a decent amount of snow on top of a decent amount of snow that we have on the ground.
But some improvement for the weekend. So,
some improvement.
So you'll have time to go over and shovel her out this weekend.
I'll get right.
It'll be nice for her.
Okay, I got a shovel waiting for you.
That's how I'm going to spend my weekend.
I knew it. See, you're just so kind. All right, we'll see you back here tonight at 10. Thanks for watching.